The U.S. president takes a hard stance on evacuees from hurricane-hit islands in the Bahamas. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, September 10th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. Bahamians who were impacted by Hurricane Dorian won't be getting any free pass to enter the United States. American President Donald Trump made it clear on Monday that his administration will not be relaxing its immigration policy for hurricane evacuees because it has to prevent people who weren't even supposed to be in the Bahamas from getting into the U.S. Speaking to reporters outside the White House, he claimed there were gang members and drug dealers in the archipelago that the U.S. government needs to keep out. Trump's comments came a week after Category 5 Hurricane Dorian tore through Abaco and Grand Bahama, pummeling the islands with 23 feet sea surges and over 185-mile-per-hour winds, displacing thousands and claiming the lives of a confirmed 50 people so far, with the fatalities rising daily. The president's position was also articulated on the heels of more than 100 Bahamian evacuees who did not have U.S. visas being forced to disembark a ferry headed to Florida from Grand Bahama last Friday.
I don't want to allow people that weren't supposed to be in the Bahamas to come into the United States, including some very bad people and some very bad gang members and some very, very bad drug dealers. So we are going to be very, very strong in that. Let me just explain. Large sections, believe it or not, of the Bahamas were not hit. And what we're doing is bringing the people to those sections of the Bahamas that have not been hit. We've done a lot of the USA aid. We've done a lot of work with our Coast Guard, with our FEMA people who have been phenomenal. I mean, they have been phenomenal. So we'll see what happens.
And the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, in the Bahamas also stressed that there have been no new arrangements made between the Bahamas and any other jurisdiction to facilitate relaxed entry for Bahamians. NEMA spokesperson Carl Smith said on Monday that Hurricane Dorian survivors seeking to travel to the U.S. or Canada from the hurricane-impacted islands must have all the usual and standard documentation to gain entry.
While most inquiries have come in respect to movement to the United States or Canada, NEMA can confirm that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is not aware of any new arrangements for any other country. We are aware of an incident reported on a large passenger vessel headed to the United States from Florida. NEMA has requested that the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs investigate this matter.
Well, the operator of the vessel mentioned there subsequently issued a statement about the 119 Bahamians who were denied passage. Balearia Caribbean, which has been performing scheduled ferry services between Fort Lauderdale and Grand Bahama since 2011 and has been offering free passage for affected residents since last Friday, said it had boarded the passengers with the understanding that they could travel to the U.S. without visas, but the company said it was later advised otherwise. It expressed regret and apologized for the hardship and inconvenience experienced by those who could not be transported. Meantime, NEMA has reported that the number of evacuees from Abaco and Grand Bahama is nearing the 5,000 mark. More than 1,000 people are in shelters, but a permanent solution for accommodation is being worked on. Francesca Brown of Eyewitness News in the Bahamas tells us more.
4,800 persons have been evacuated from Grand Bahama and Abaco into the capital. NEMA spokesperson Carl Smith stressed today that the plan is not to move everyone out, but to build temporary housing on the affected islands until a permanent solution can be found.
You know, we are selecting the best sites possible. But in the meantime, the actual facilities, the structure, those are on their way to put on the ground. So it's many moving parts, things are happening. And as soon as we are able to say that where they will be and when the facilities are ready for occupancy, we will inform the public.
John Michael Clark, chairman of the Disaster Relief and Reconstruction Committee, explains the process.
We wanted to evacuate the Marsh Harbor area, and a lot of the evacuees are in. We will put up 2 relief areas in Marsh Harbor. The areas would be one to the south of Marsh Harbor and one to the north of Marsh Harbor. And those are to get persons back quickly who would want to rebuild their homes right away. And then that temporary transition space will be no more, essentially.
The relief centers are expected to house around 4,000 persons. Clark said the committee has not decided if the housing will be tents, prefab homes, or trailers.
We are right now investigating the best option for the relief centers, because these won't be there for a week. You know, these could be anywhere from between 180 days to 365 days, depending on what we find in our assessments.
Smith also addressed what he called the misconception that NEMA or civil aviation is preventing persons from carrying relief supplies to the islands.
There are rules and regulations, international rules and local rules and regulations to govern the airspace. Priority is given to humanitarian assistance and saving lives. And so, for example, if I have an aircraft, I'm a private individual, no contact was made by NEMA. I may have some goods to deliver to some friends or family. NEMA knows nothing about it, and so civil aviation will not allow them to enter at that time. Priority is given to those entities that made contact with NEMA. That is one of the functions of NEMA. It is to coordinate. And so we are not preventing persons from getting in, but it has to be done in an orderly fashion.
Meanwhile, Governor General Cornelius Smith has described the devastation brought by Hurricane Dorian as a most grievous blow. In a radio and television broadcast on Monday night, he said Bahamians now face their greatest challenge in rebuilding after the hurricane.
This is a dark and joyless time for those who have lost everything. But we pledge to you that there will be light and hope again. Fellow Bahamians, our public infrastructure has been degraded or is now non-existent. We face one of the greatest challenges in our history, that of rebuilding the lives of our people and our country. But in the midst of all this, we are inspired by the performance of those who were and are still on the front line. And so, on behalf of a grateful nation, I say a heartfelt thank you.
And the Bahamas will receive almost $11 million from the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, CRIF, as a result of the damage caused by Hurricane Dorian. CRIF said in a statement that it will pay out $10,936,103. CRIF's payouts are usually made within 14 days of an event, but in this case, CRIF made an advance payment of 50% of the payout to allow the Bahamian government to begin to address its most pressing needs. The rest of the money will be paid within the 14-day window for all CRIF payouts. The Bahamas has 3 tropical cyclone policies with CRIF, each one covering a zone of the archipelago: Northwest, Southeast and Central. It was the tropical cyclone policy for the Northwest zone, which includes Abaco and Grand Bahama, that was triggered. Still to come, Jamaica's opposition People's National Party, PNP, remains a house divided after the election for the leadership. Stay with us for that story and more after the break.
tell us why she's considered an unusual body shape.
I'm considered an unusual body shape because of the proportions of my body, I'll say from neck to my feet.
Okay.
And my proportions are 44, 52, 100 inches.
Wait a minute, 100?
Uh-huh. I have gone between 95 and 100 inches for the past month.
After an emergency, you can help yourself and others by looking, listening, and linking.
Looking because you want to see if the person has some signs that is in distressing. Looking for the symptoms, how best you can support the person. And then listening, because listening is very important. Listening with your ears, listening with your eyes. If you do that well, then you'll be able to link them to the appropriate resources.
Be ready, look, listen, and link.
There are more reports of disunity within Jamaica's opposition People's National Party following last weekend's party leadership election. 3 members of the shadow cabinet have resigned, including Peter Bunting, who had challenged Dr. Peter Phillips for the post. Dr. Phillips won the election by 76 votes. We get the details of the latest development in this report from TVJ News.
The PNP presidential election is over, but the camp titles still linger. Rise United and One PNP supporters. It's why many say the PNP is a divided party, with delegate support split almost exactly in half. As opposition, the party's shadow cabinet is also split, with at least 7 members who supported Peter Bunting's Rise campaign. After Saturday's loss, the spokesperson resignations started coming in.
I will tender resignation from the shadow cabinet. I think that is the principled and decent thing to do.
Among the shadow ministers who supported Peter Bunting's Rise United, Dayton Campbell, Mark Golding, Angela Brown-Burke, Fenton Ferguson, Ian Hales, Noel Arscott, Ronald Thwaites, and Michael Stewart. It's understood that Peter Bunting himself, as spokesman on industry and commerce, has also tendered his resignation. However, he says he intends to continue serving, at least for now.
I committed to my central Manchester constituents that I would serve at least 4 terms. I'm in my 3rd term, so I have 1 more to go. But however I can contribute to the party, that is my intention.
As news of the resignation spread, there were more talks of disunity in the PNP. The party's election monitoring committee announced plans for a meeting Monday morning to work out strategies for the reconciliation of factions. Then, Monday afternoon, the opposition leader, through a press release, responded to the resignations. Pointing to an announcement in April, Dr. Peter Phillips said he indicated that he would be reorganizing the shadow cabinet after the end of the parliamentary sectoral debate. The internal presidential election intervened, and he considered it prudent to postpone that exercise. It went on to say he now intends to undertake the shadow cabinet reorganization after the conclusion of the party's annual conference on September 22. Until then, he has asked all shadow ministers to remain in place and continue to monitor their assigned portfolio.
Lawyers for the Guyana government and the main opposition People's Progressive Party, PPP, will on September 30th make oral submissions in a case in which the High Court is being asked to compel the cabinet, including the president, to resign. Former Attorney General Anil Nandlal is seeking the order, which he insists is in keeping with the passage of a no-confidence motion against the coalition government last December. But Attorney General Basil Williams says the case is a waste of time. We get more in this report from Newsroom's Bibi Katoon.
High Court on Monday granted former Attorney General Anil Nandlal until September 16 to file arguments after he approached the High Court for an order compelling the cabinet, including the president, to resign, given the successful passage of the December 21st no-confidence motion. The defendant in the case is Attorney General Basil Williams, who argued that the application is a waste of the court's time.
Mr. Nandlal is fast becoming a vexatious litigant. What has he done? He's come today. For the last 9 months, I'm hearing the same arguments. The cabinet and president must resign. This learned Chief Justice dealt with that issue. It went to the CCJ. The CCJ rejected it. clearly said that the government remains in a different mode, an interim government and all that. So it's a waste of the court's time, the court's resources.
The Attorney General was given until September 23rd to file responses. He also told reporters outside the courtroom that the application is disrespectful to the Caribbean Court of Justice, which dealt with these matters and delivered a ruling in June. Attorney-at-law Anil Nandlal sought to dispel the claims made by the AG.
It's unfortunate that we have to resort to this kind of strenuous efforts in the court to get a government to obey the clear language of the Constitution. It is unfortunate that the citizens of this country have to resort to this kind of extreme in getting a government simply to comply with the Constitution. This is the level to which we have descended. And rather than the Attorney General come here and concede as the principal legal advisor under the Constitution of the government of Guyana, he comes here and says that it is an abusive process.
How do you respond to that?
It's an atrocious contention.
This case follows one which concluded on August 14th, in which Nandlal sought to have the court set a timeline for elections.
Repeat offenders in Trinidad and Tobago could face up to life in prison for gun crimes. Parliament voted on Monday night to amend the Firearms Act to target repeat offenders who possess illegal firearms. The move comes as authorities try to crack down on increasing murders. We get more in this report from TV6 News.
To provide for increased penalties, including a $500,000 fine and 15 years in prison upon conviction of a first offense of possession of a firearm without a firearm user's license. It also includes life in prison upon a third conviction for certain firearm-related offenses. In piloting the bill, Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi said from 2009 to 2019 there have been 17,363 firearm offenses, of which 11,168 were for robberies and 3,472 were for murders.
Under our financial legislative measures, we treat the breach of a regulation with by far more severity than we treat with the possession of a firearm, the use of a firearm. There was no treatment for trafficking in firearms, whilst we have our citizens locked in their homes and afraid of their own society.
Ahead in sport, Guyanese batting ace Chandra Paul Hemraj looks to build momentum after the Amazon Warriors' CPL victory over the Barbados Tridents. We'll be right back.
$1.5 million British people visit the Caribbean, and Barbados is highly dependent on British tourism. With the exit from the European Union, the immediate effect was on the British pound. The devaluation was significant, which made it a whole lot more expensive for British citizens to travel to the Caribbean.
Coming up on Caribbean Passport, highlights of a memorable CariFesta 14 in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. The creativity of the Caribbean and all that the region has to offer was on full display. Celebrate our Festival of Arts as we strengthen the bond between us on Caribbean Passport, the CariFesta edition, right here on this station.
Top Guyanese batsman Chandra Paul Hemraj is aiming to build on his momentum after playing a part in the Guyana Amazon Warriors' victory over Barbados Tridents on Sunday in the Caribbean Premier League. Hemraj had put the Tridents bowlers to the sword with a top score of 63 from 55, which helped Guyana land its third straight win. While most players will be making a pitch to claim a stake in the regional side's World Cup, Hemraj is focused on taking home the CPL title to Guyana.
Hemraj, the Guyana Jaguars and West Indies ODI opener, cracked a career-high 63 off 55 balls, stabilizing the Warriors' top order after the early loss of fellow opener Brandon King, the informed Shimron Hetmyer, and skipper Shoaib Malik against Barbados Tridents.
Hemraj, your first T20 half century, how did that feel batting there today?
It's a great experience, you know. I must thank the crowd for the turnout to the past 3 games. It's been really amazing.
The solidity provided by Hemraj at the top of the order allowed the young pair, Nicholas Pooran and Sherfin Rutherford, to tee off at the end, adding 78 in 4.5 overs to effectively bat the Tridents out of the contest.
What was happening in the camp when Nicholas and Sherfin were going at it in the last 5 overs there?
I mean, watching those 2 guys bat and the way they hit the ball has been really clean.
With many Caribbean-based players looking to put their names in the ring ahead of the T20 World Cup in 2020, Hemraj is not looking too far ahead.
I just want to enjoy my cricket, you know, whenever I get the opportunity, I just want to make the most of it. Yeah, I think I've been timing the ball pretty well, you know. I just want to keep going and go deep into the tournament.
With scores of 14, 39 and 63 thus far, Hemraj is the league's leading run scorer with 116 runs. He will have another opportunity to add to that total when the Warriors come up against host St. Kitts Patriots on Saturday from 20 hours.
To football now, Bermuda's national coach Kyle Lightbourne has hailed his team's performance after Naki Wells scored in each half for his side, producing a major shock by beating Panama 2-0 in the CONCACAF Nations League on Sunday night. The stunning victory by Bermuda against a team ranked 100 places above it avenged a 4-1 defeat 3 days earlier and kept alive the island's hopes of survival in the tournament's top tier ahead of meetings against Mexico. Here are the highlights of the match.
The Warriors do. Things in Machado. Curls it in, knocked down in the box. Still alive, Barcenas. Possession, here is Lamb. Tries to sneak it through. Down for Lewis, and Wells puts it away. Against the wire play, the Gombe. The road as well just to get there. Ball driven in by Maria. It goes on paper if Bermuda's go and win this game. Rodriguez now on the ball in a dangerous spot. Gets a left-footed shot. Difference maker for that team. Lamb has space, finds Wells, looking for a second, and Bermuda doubles their lead on the road. Into the bigger games. They don't want to go into those games off the back of the box. In this game at home. And there it is, the final whistle.
Meanwhile, 2 goals each from Alvis Powell and Denver Orgill landed CONCACAF powerhouses Jamaica their second win in the Group B clash against Guyana.
Shot on target, and it's in. Alvis Powell charging down that right side.
Just struck the ball straight at the keeper. I think Akil Clark should have done much better with that one.
Clark off his line, and it's a brace.
Almost a repeat of the first goal.
It's their opportunity coming for Jamaica, and it's 3 goals just before halftime. Cuts into his right, the shot, it's blocked by Clark on the rebound. Falls for Orgill, and he makes it 4. Jamaica. McKenna now stands over it. The shot on goal, it's saved off the crossbar. Andre Blake, a big save. Marshall, his shot is blocked. Right in front of goal, and then knocked in, but the flag was up. No goal.
Football, but with some sad news. Curaçao's senior men's squad has been plunged into mourning following the sudden passing of goalkeeper Jarzino Peter earlier Monday morning in Haiti. Preliminary reports indicate he fell ill on Sunday evening after arriving in Haiti. Prior to his passing, he was seen by a doctor before retiring to his hotel room to rest for the match. But he was later found dead in bed. The nature of his illness has not been disclosed. Curaçao are due to play Haiti in the French-speaking nation's capital on Tuesday evening for the second leg of their CONCACAF Nations League campaign. And finally, in horse racing, veteran Barbadian rider Patrick Husband's form showed little sign of wane as he reeled off a season-leading 12 stakes win at Woodbine on Sunday after bringing night 5 favourite Lift Up with a flying late run to capture the 120,000 Canadian dollar Bell Mahone Stakes. Going a mile and 16 for the 3-year-olds and upward, Husbands powered the Michael Dickinson-trained 5-year-old Bear Mare into contention in the upper stretch before winning a 3-way battle to reach the wire by a neck in a time of 1 minute 43.57 seconds. Woodbine's Robert Geller has the call.
The Berries tucked up on the inside and Lift Up at the back. Out in front, Luna Garden, 4.5 furlongs from home. In second placing remains Ladies' Night. A length Asula's Arch. Starting to move into it. She's the Berries on the inside as Mother Krista dropped back to second last. Lift Up on the outside, yet to be asked to make a move as they come inside the 3.5. Luna Garden by a length. Ladies' Night in second. The leader now quickening. In rage is Asula's Arch. Asula's Arch coming nicely around the outside as Lift Up for the first time shows interest, and they come with their moves after this leader, Luna Garden, in the turn into the stretch. She's the Berries on the inside, a line of 4 behind Luna Garden. Up the rail, She's the Berries, down the outside, Lift Up, and then Asula's Arch, drifting out Luna Garden, Lift Up out wide, and Patrick Husbands and Lift Up on the outside, Luna Garden the center, She's the Berries, the rail, Lift Up in front, She's the Berries on the inside, Luna Garden, Lift Up the winner from She's the Berries, Luna Garden, Asula's Arch, Mother Krista, and Ladies' Night.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
So 35 minutes to kind of get the judges off their seats and into this arena. 35 minutes for you guys, which will start right now. Are we gonna? Yeah, here's a fire and a flame, and they've created their own roasting grill, their own grill here, where they're going to roast their peppers, and they're roasting some coconut as well. Roasted coconut right in the shell.
Just working like they're at home cooking lunch. Nothing bothers them.
A recap of the day's major developments now. The American president says his administration won't be relaxing its immigration policy for Bahamian hurricane evacuees because it has to make sure bad people don't get into the U.S. And in sport, Guyanese batting ace Chandra Paul Hemraj looks to build momentum after the Amazon Warriors' latest CPL victory. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to economnews.com. For more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CNC News, thank you for watching and good night.
You are watching CaribVision.